Yeah, so I want to talk about something that I saw on the Always Sunny podcast the other day. I'm a huge fan of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's one of those shows that I point to why I'm doing what I'm doing kind of thing. I'd be lying if I said I catch all the Always Sunny podcasts, though. I catch them when I catch them, and I caught one the other day, and something happened in it that really made me think, and so I want to talk about it. They were doing an episode where Dee went viral for being sad or something, and so she's trying to cash in on it, and so she has Charlie videotaping her with this camcorder, and they're talking about it on the podcast. They're joking. It's the camcorder that Charlie's using is the actual one of the production cameras they use to shoot the show with, but because it works in the show, is because it looks crappy. It's a camcorder. It looked crappy then. It looks absolutely archaic now, considering what cameras look like now. But the idea, they sort of went into a thing about how Charlie sort of butted heads with people. I think the studio, I assume, who was pushing them to update their cameras, catch up. And Charlie was pushing back saying, we're good. I think for money reasons mostly, but also simplicity reasons. It's a camcorder. You can't change lenses. You kind of just put the battery in, and I think it was tapes at that point, not even memory cards. So the idea, though, was simplicity. It was on the face of it, it's the whole camera doesn't matter argument, which is something we all learn at some point, is the camera doesn't matter. It's everything else, basically everything but the camera. But I think you can really pull the thread on this whole Charlie argued about the cameras thing and really look at as like a microcosm of how Always Sunny runs as a production. I would like to argue that they are the most successful / longest running independent film that exists. They're making a 5-hour independent film every single season. So before I get into it properly, I just want to do all the disclaimers. I'm going to get facts wrong. I'm going to get details wrong. I'm going to get names, if I had to guess, wrong. The hope is the spirit of what I'm talking about, the idea of what I'm talking about rings true, because I'm definitely going to get details super wrong. And I'm okay with it. So let's get into it. It's 2004-ish. Charlie, Rob McElhenney, and then Dennis, his name is Glenn. They're in LA. They're unemployed actors, having the actor life, unemployed actor life, which is it's a tough life. Rob decides he wants to try to get funding or financing to make a feature film, because he's not getting roles, or at least he's not getting roles that he likes. And he gets his buddies to be in a movie with him. And, I don't know really what happened with that, but they did a second short film, which was going to be pitched for financing to make a full feature version. And that was going to be, It's Always Sunny on TV. And the joke is, it's always sunny on TV because they're on sets and it's lit. So it's always a sunny day. The show itself was going to be the idea that, what do unemployed actors do during the day? So it's a show about nothing. It's the Seinfeld of it all. It's the people hanging out. Yeah, no high concept to speak of. So they shoot it, and let's get a little of attention. At some point, somebody goes, what about TV? And this was the era where I think TV was still probably a dirty word. I don't feel that way. I'm not convinced anybody working on Always Sunny feels that way, but it was kind of that era, I feel. But they said, okay, yeah, let's do TV. And so they got some offers. They got the offer everybody dreams of, which is the big network is going to write you a fat check. You probably won't have much connection to it, and they're just going to shoot a pilot, but you got the check. You got noticed. You're going to do the water bottle tour in town. Everybody's going to meet you. Congratulations to you. Maybe it'll be a show. Pilots fail almost all pilots fail, but you get it. Option B is this upstart, deep cable network that nobody really watches, that doesn't really have programming, that is trying to get into the scripted game. Says, we can do a season. You're not going to make much money. It's going to suck, but you're going to own it. You're going to have creative control over it. See what you come up with. And, it's really tempting to pick up that check, and a lot of people have, but for some reason they decided, let's bet on us. And I think the logic was some version of we're broke. if we're broken a year, it is what it is. Nothing changed. At least we got to make a show that we're proud of. So they made their show with FX. 7 episodes for the first season. It came out. I didn't see it. I only caught up in the middle of season 3. But after that season, somehow they got renewed for a 10 episode second season. They came across Danny DeVito somehow. His kids liked the show. He met with them. He decided to do it. Sort of lend his star to sort of boost the show. They did this thing in production called shooting out the actor, where they basically, all 10 episodes of Danny DeVito's stuff was shot first so he could go live his life, and then they shot the rest of it afterwards, out of respect for him. And the show came out. It's doing better. They get a 3rd season. They do it again. It's where I jumped onto it. I would also argue that's probably where they really found their stride. They, found their confidence, ironed out all the little kinks. And then the show is what it is today. And you can point to the show in an early season versus a more recent season. There's a little bit that's changed. The characters have evolved a little bit. Mac is very gay now, and Dennis is a full-on sociopath and has probably killed people. And I could say that about D2. And Charlie's crazy, but, and Frank is, very, very broad now. But short of that, you could drop in an early episode into a late season, a late episode into an early season. The tone is the same. The jokes are the same. The topics that they're dealing with are basically the same. The show, they figured out the show in the short film. And part of that was, the cheat of the fact that they had written their characters based on themselves. The only character they added initially was Caitlin Olsen's D character. And then they added Frank's dad character later. But short of that, they figured out the characters, they figured out the world, they figured out the tone, which is astounding that they figured out the tone so quickly. And then they're off to the races. Yeah, but it was an independent film. It was an independent film through and through. They were shooting on, again, the cheapest equipment they could possibly get their hands on. They didn't know for the first season that they could ask for a writer's room. They just wrote on their couches, which is ironic in 2022, where a lot of writer's rooms take place on Zoom or on a couch. And they just, they wrote ostensibly. Most episodes are bottle episodes. They exist bottled in whatever set they have. There's for the first couple seasons, their sets were the bar and then like 1 or 2 of their apartments. There's been some, out there episodes. The whole last season took place in Ireland, and the Mac Finds His Pride episode is a unique work of art that fits in the show, but is definitely its own thing. But short of that, they're all, they're basically the same episode, the same tone, the same characters. They found a system that just properly works, and they keep doing it. And the show's changed a little bit too, in that some of the mid seasons are longer seasons, and then at some point they burned out and decided 10 was the sweet spot. It's crazy that now 10 is like a long season for a show now, whereas 10 back when they were starting was, some seasons were 22 or 25 episodes, and they were doing 10 or 7. Yeah, so it's wild to me that they indie filmed it and they made it work for them, and they never let it get too big. They never let it become different enough that they sort of lost control over it. And they have monster careers now. Charlie's a movie star. Glenn was in AP Bio. Caitlin was in the Mick. They're all married to each other. If you look it up, not the guys, but I mean the guys are married to women in the show, or the women are married to the guys in the show, I guess. It's wild to me that they figured out what works really quickly, and then they stuck to it. And even after having these massive careers, they come back and they do this show. And I think part of that is it's creatively rewarding for them to come back, because they're friends for one thing, but they're able to do their show. If you're doing a big splashy network show, it's the network show at some level. This is why I feel like Dan Harmon was always having so much trouble with Community, is because it's Sony's show or it's NBC's show at the end of the day, whereas Always Sunny really is the Always Sunny creators' show. Yeah. So there's there's a lot to take away from this. The camera doesn't matter. Write a bottle episode. Work well within your means. Once you figure out what's working, lean into it and just keep improving upon what's working. Figure out the tone. If you can't figure out characters, just base characters on people that are going to be those characters anyway. That's what they do a lot in like Curb Your Enthusiasm or The League, any of these semi-scripted shows. Yeah, so it's wild, and they're still in the air, and they're probably never going to go away. They're like South Park; they're just going to keep. They're going to keep making them because they work. And some people would argue the quality has gone down lately. I disagree. I think the quality has basically been the same the whole time, and I like it a lot. So yeah, film school would have you believe that you need the best camera because that'll improve the image. At some point you figure out the camera doesn't matter. Unless you're a director of photography or a VFX artist, but those are really specific moments. The rest of the time, it's the story and the characters. You got to have good sound, and then everything else is just everything else. It doesn't, it could be lit better. That could be nice, but it's not a deal breaker. You really just got to get story and sound to work. So yeah, so Always Sunny, the ultimate like indie film franchise, indie film team. I think there's good stuff to learn there. They bet on themselves. They figured out what was working and they leaned into it. And that's what we ended up with. Love them or hate them, they have exactly delivered on what they've promised. Very possibly the most consistent show I've ever seen. So yeah, that's what I got. Was this helpful? Was this useful? Was this new information? Like, what do you guys think? Am I just spitting back what Reddit's been talking about for the last 15 years? I honestly don't know. So I guess let me know. See you next time.